Smash that like and subscribe for more.
Okay then, let's get into the video.
Dive into a little further than others, but for the most part we're going to be using the animation I created in the last video that focused more on how to animate in Clip Studio Paint as a model for this video as we go through each of the steps. Here's a popular anime production workflow breakdown in French, and here's an English adaptation a little simplified with its Japanese name counterpart. Depending on the person, the studio, or the animation itself, there's slight changes here and there. So here is my version, even further simplified for you guys. Depending on the anime episodes usually have at least 300 cuts and at least 5,000 animation frames. You add more depending on how popular the anime is or if it's a feature film. Overall, it varies. It usually costs at least $300,000 to produce about a 19-20 minute anime episode, and even then, the animators, especially the newer animators, don't get paid nearly enough. Imagine working 15 hours a day for just $40.
ってことはじゃあワンカット作ったらかなりお金入るんじゃないですか。1ヶ月とかかかります。すごい世界ですね。
But this video is not going to focus on things like pitching or the budgets. Anything outside this workflow here is not going to be touched on as much. And first up, you got your scenario, your treatment, your synopsis. Basically a brief explanation about what's going on, what's going to happen. And then your script kind of fleshes it out, gives it a little more foundation, dialogue, narration, all that good stuff. How you structure your script is up to you. You can go with a more formal sense of like maybe how screenplays and scripts are put together in Hollywood, or you can just write whatever works for you, especially if you're a one-man army. Again, depending on the animation, the studio, the animator, all of that, everybody kind of has their own method of doing things. So here's my scenario draft. Initially, it was just written for my eyes only, right? But you guys can take a peek. I put this together based off of characters from my series Apple Black. You can check out Volume 1 and Volume 2, link in the description. And now here's a script with narration and barely any dialogue, because there really isn't any dialogue. It's just a character looking cool and then like the narration going on in the background. That's the only monologue, if you will. And it's just saying the Eli prophecy that's within my series. It's mentioned a couple times in the series. It has to do with the main character and all of that, and that's just kind of like in the background. I wanted a very simple animation, minimal animation actually going on. I just wanted something that I could use as a good model to teach how to animate within Clip Studio Paint. This step usually goes through some kind of review before moving to the next step in the workflow. Next thing to look out for is like the concept design assets. So if the scene takes place in a certain place, you have people designing that place. So if it's adapted from a series, you're just going to lift off of what's going on in the manga and then still develop it with color and all of that and how it's going to look for the animation. So just creating those kind of assets. If the character needs to be designed, then it'll be designed. Luckily in this case, I already have my character designed, so I didn't spend too much time on there. But usually if you're working in a team, a character design sheet will be developed, and that will be something that everybody uses. You'll have all the colors on the character, even maybe some sketches with different facial expressions and different poses to really get the vibe of that character so that everybody on the team is consistent. Even further down the line in the phase where the animations get colored in with that department, they're going to be using some of these at least colored versions of those character sheets, using the eyedropper and lifting colors directly to put into the animation, so to make sure that everybody on the team is using the exact same colors. This phase is just here to do all the concept work that needs to be done. This step usually goes through some kind of review before moving to the next step in the workflow. The next phase will be figuring out the storyboard animatic, and the storyboard animatic is basically just doing the storyboards for what's going to happen in the animation. And then you have some notes on the sides for like the timing, what's being said, any dialogue, or how many scenes, how many cuts, where did they take place, how long did we spend on a scene. That's where all of that gets figured out. Again, each animation studio, animator, or whatever has their own format or template on how to put this together. You can find many templates online to use. You just kind of need to figure out what works best for you. Here's the one I use. On this storyboard, I'm trying to figure out what parts I'm going to pan, where I'm going to zoom, what's actually going to be happening, what the character's going to be saying. You can see on the side where we get to see where the cuts are, same scene, but what cut is it within that scene. Some of the dialogue on the side, in this case, little narration, kind of monologue that's happening in the background, which is one of the last ones. Sometimes the assets are created traditionally, sometimes they're created visually. It just depends. Most times it goes digital just because it's cheaper to do so. Now while all that's happening, you take the storyboard animatic, you then plug it into your animation software, and then based off of the timing of certain things, you then start to create your rough keyframes. Depending on the artist, it might not be that rough, but usually just the rough keyframes to know where things go. You create those keyframes in your animation software. In this case, I'd recommend Clipsio Paint. Keyframes are just frames of like the starting and ending points of any smooth transition. Key animators decide what parts of a drawing to show in a frame, and it'll usually be the starting point and the ending point of an action, while the in-betweens are literally just the frames in between the keyframes. So based off of the storyboard, here are some rough keyframes forming a scene from Dr. Stone. And you can compare the two as a finished look compared to the rough keyframes put together. Sometimes from the rough keyframes, depending on your studio, what you guys have planned, you can maybe even go 3D. And here, this is a shot of me putting together my rough keyframes.
で、原画さんがこの大元の動きを作る人が原画マンって言うんですけど、私が今原画の仕事をさせていただいてます。
After you've created the rough keyframes, you then solidify them with clean lines. I recommend vector lines. And then after you've gotten those keyframes, the next step would be to create the in-betweens. And sometimes the in-betweens are passed on to a separate team or some assistants, even outsourced to different countries where it's cheaper to have them do it. So after that, I solidify those lines to form the keyframes and the in-betweens. I use the rough keyframes to form the keyframes with my vector lines, and then I use like an onion skin, which is in Clipsio Paint. Again, my Clipsio Paint video for animation goes into more detail about all of that stuff. And I just use the onion skin to figure out what I'm going to do with the in-betweens, figure out how many cells I want in between, all of that. That's what you see me doing right here. And that's what the next step is. This step usually goes through some kind of, okay, you get it. You then go into coloring, and sometimes it's done by a different department, and we just put in the colors that are necessary. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on how to actually animate, my video before this, I think I spent a whole lot of time.
Anyway, this video is in Japanese, I suppose, but don't worry, your subtitles, so we can read it on the way. So anyway, let's get into the video. This is a series where we'll be reacting to manga-based contents. We voted on it on my live stream. You can go watch that later. Anyway, subscribe, hit that like button. Anyway, we can get into the video.
Hai teman-teman, kembali lagi dengan video baru. Hari ini, kita akan mengambil konsep lama dari My Hero Academia, khususnya Deku. Kita akan mengambil sketsa Horikoshi dari kreator dan mengubahnya untuk melihat seperti apa tampilannya saat ini dalam bentuk anime. Tapi pertama-tama, seperti yang kalian tahu, kami telah membuat banyak video desain karakter, video konsep seni, dan senang juga melihat bagaimana kreator lain, terutama kreator populer, berpikir tentang hal itu. Sayangnya, di sini, dengan Deku ini, yang merupakan sketsa awal Deku di masa-masa awal, saya memanggilnya Emo Deku. Semuanya dalam bahasa Jepang, jadi kita tidak dapat melihat atau membaca semua permata. Jika ada yang bisa berbahasa Jepang, saya ingin tahu apa yang dikatakan atau ditulis di kertas di kolom komentar. Saya akan sangat menghargainya, dan saya yakin orang lain juga akan menghargainya. Tapi, seperti yang kalian lihat, berikut adalah desain lama untuk Deku dan tampilan kostum yang berbeda. Saya pikir ini sangat menarik untuk dilihat, mirip seperti video-video sebelumnya yang sudah kalian lihat. Kalian juga melihat saya menggambar karakter saya sendiri dan menggambar properti dan item lainnya, senjata, dan masih banyak lagi. Lalu kalian melihat saya meninggalkan beberapa catatan di sana-sini, menjelaskan mungkin sedikit lebih jauh tentang apapun yang terjadi dengan desain atau material atau apapun. Mungkin hanya catatan untuk diri saya sendiri. Dan kalian bisa melihat bahwa, kalian tahu, banyak kreator yang memiliki pendekatan serupa. Saya bisa melihat VN Kit-nya. VN Kit. Banyak orang tahu tentang hal ini karena saya baru tahu tentang semua draft awal terjadi. Saya bukan satu-satunya yang berpikir bahwa beberapa desain karakter buatan My Hero Academia terlihat menjijikan. Bukan, saya tidak mungkin satu-satunya. Banyak hal yang sangat menarik bagi saya karena saya melakukan hal-hal yang sangat mirip. Jadi, menarik untuk melihat bahwa saya bukan satu-satunya. Sekali lagi, hal yang serupa. Artis lain juga bermain-main dengan desainnya. Anda dapat melihat seperti Bakugo yang bahagia, yang saya yakin mungkin aneh. Lalu Anda harus memiliki gadis menyeramkan yang mencintai semua orang dengan sifat yang sangat dingin. Gaya rambut yang berbeda. Saya agak terlambat ke pesta. Iterasi lainnya di sini. Astaga, seperti yang saya katakan, Emo Deku. Sama halnya dengan All Might. Kami juga punya iterasi yang berbeda untuk All Might. Saya senang mereka memilih All Might.
Supposed to look so much different, bro. And I think they were supposed to be going to the same school or something. Or am I wrong?
Might, kita tahu sekarang. Yang ini terlihat lebih mirip. Lalu, Anda tahu, All Might yang kurus atau All Might yang sakit. Tidak banyak yang berubah. tetapi Anda bisa melihat percobaan pertama untuk mendapatkan nuansa pahlawan super barat yang khas pada terjemahan, karena itu membantu Anda melihat isi pikiran kreator dengan lebih baik. Saya yakin Invisible Girl mungkin
I've always been interested in toga. If you've been interested in toga, like and subscribe and say.
akan memiliki konsep seni yang paling sulit baginya. Fakta, mereka mungkin menghabiskan sebagian besar waktu untuk mendesainnya, tetapi kita tidak melihatnya. Setiap seri memiliki ini, terutama jika Anda menonton one-shot mereka. One-shot pada dasarnya seperti pilot dari semua manga ini sebelum mereka menjadi serial di dalam majalah. Dan One Piece adalah one-shot yang sedikit berbeda. Bahkan, manga ini bahkan tidak disebut One Piece. Manga ini disebut Romance Dawn. Naruto pada dasarnya adalah Naruto, tetapi ada banyak perubahan. Saya yakin bahkan ada pistol di pilotnya. Bleach juga sangat berbeda. Mereka mengubah beberapa hal dengan Orihime. Jadi My Hero hanya disebut My Hero, bukan My Hero Academia yang kita kenal sekarang. Jadi terkadang pilotnya sangat berbeda, tetapi itu membantu promosi, membantu menjual ide aslinya. Dan kemudian majalah, dalam hal ini, Sonar Jump, akan memutuskan, oke, kami akan menjalankannya. Tetapi mungkin mereka akan membuat beberapa perubahan di sana-sini sebelum mereka memulainya sepenuhnya. Saya tidak yakin apakah ini benar-benar dilakukan oleh kreator aslinya. Saya tidak yakin apakah ini adalah draft awal tim 7 dari Naruto. Mereka mungkin hanya bermain-main dengan ilustrasi ini. Tetapi jika tidak, saya rasa ini adalah draft.
Anyway, that's it for this video. I know it's not finished, but I want to spare you guys time. If you took time to watch this video, consider subscribing. I really appreciate it. This does a lot for me. And thank you. Goodbye. And watch some of my other videos. And also, I've started live streaming. So pull up, guys. Pull up, Whylandia.